All right, Nick, how's your holidays been going?
It's actually too fast. I can't even, it's pretty speedy.
Yeah.
Right?
You just feel like we're kind of just racing ourselves towards the finish line of these holidays. Maybe get through that into Oscar season.
A little too fast, a little too furious.
Yeah. And I mean, we should probably talk about a racing film today. What film can we talk about that has, speed, fastness, and furiousness?
With two F words,
Yeah.
Let's talk about Ford versus Ferrari.
Good idea. All right, so that's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about the based on a true story of the 24-hour Le Mans between Ford and Ferrari, directed by James Mangold, who just does just about everything in film.
Yeah.
He's kind of all across the board on genres, so... All right, everyone, thanks for joining us again. I'm Kyle and Nick on Film. I'm one of your hosts, Kyle Goethe from GoatFilmReviews.com.
And I'm Nick from St. Paul Filmcast, a podcast you can listen on all major distributors.
And today we're going to talk Ford v. Ferrari, a very award season friendly film that just dropped here a couple weeks ago. We got a lot of, I just kind of jumping into it right here, directed by James Mangold, who most recently directed Logan, one of the very well praised X-Men films and a very shaky franchise of X-Men films, and also starring Matt Damon and Christian Bale.
Yep.
Funny thing is, I guess Matt Damon actually picked to do this film because he wanted to work with Christian Bale. Like, he'd been looking forward to it for so long that was one of the things that glued him into the film.
You're probably thinking, you're thinking Matt Damon and Christian Bale, you're probably thinking, they've probably already done a movie together. Something like that. You're already thinking in your mind, like, they've probably been auditioning for same roles or something like that. So they're two people that probably cross paths.
Yeah.
And finally, a script of them fits very well.
Yeah.
James Mangold, I think, would be regarded as a worldwide accomplished film director. He's a very good story maker.
Yeah, I think he knows very well, like, how to pace out what's going on. Like, he takes his time when he needs to. He goes fast when he needs to, and we see a lot of fastness here with some of the speed sequences and the racing scenes in the film. And we also see a lot of character driven moments too, and kind of like digging into how do we make this car faster.
Yeah.
So I guess overall, like, what are your initial thoughts on the film as a whole?
As a whole, it's actually surprisingly, I like it more than I thought it would.
Okay.
And I think it's definitely a lot of rewatchability. I think people would probably enjoy it even more if they watch it again. There's really tight scripting involved, a lot of tight actors. Obviously, they have Josh Lucas plays this overarching bad guy, and I think you need one of those.
He could almost have a mustache that he's.
Yes. It was a little bit over the top, but in fact, it almost need to be. We needed to be something a little more on the opposite spectrum, because some of these characters are really plausible, even though they're based on real characters. But in the movie, they really have some depth to them.
Mm-hmm. And I think for me, some of the things that I really came out of the film thinking about is this is Ford v Ferrari, but it's almost like Ford v Ferrari v Carroll Shelby, because really as much as Ford is putting these two guys into play, Carroll and Ken are kind of still fighting between the two. They're almost like kids being tugged between parents. In terms of how they want to accomplish their goal. They're never given what they need to succeed. They always have to fight for it. And I think it's a film kind of about knowing who your friends are, knowing who your the people you can turn to when you need to, and also just a really powerful friendship between these two guys. I love the fact that we get to explore these two guys and their relationship in the film, because they're both completely different. I
totally agree with it. The connections of characters, even believable, even the side characters of Lee Iacocca and Henry Ford II, add a lot of layers to this script, even though it's basically about two guys trying to win a race. Carroll Shelby actually it puts in the movie. I think it's played very well by Matt Damon.
Oh yeah. People are going to give him kind of like a backseat when they're referring to these two performers, and I think that's just because Christian Bale's character as Ken Miles gets more meat to his story. He really gets to have a meaty role, but that's also because he has a family in the film, and so he's got people that we get to look at him through the lens of. Yeah. Whereas with Carroll Shelby, we only get to really look at him through the lens of Ken, and a little bit through some of the side characters they interact over there for. But there's a lot of subtlety to what Matt Damon is doing.
I agree. Yes, thanks for hitting
everything in the film that he does isn't so much given. Christian Bale gets to have an angry moment. Like there's a moment early on in the film where he chucks a wrench, I believe, at Carol.
Yeah, he's a very loud.
Yeah, he's a loud, boisterous guy. Even in the car, he's yelling, probably at himself most of the time.
Yeah.
Whereas everything Carol kind of gets to do, he gets a lot more of that subtlety, that nuance. There's a lot of lip biting. There's a lot of like emotional resonance just in what he's able to do with his eyes, which is something really cool because he's wearing sunglasses a lot. So like really getting to emote even when he doesn't have his eyesight, given to the screen.
One of the things I really liked about this film is the contrast between Ford and Ferrari, how they make cars and how they manufacture cars, how they are a family operated Ferrari, which is an industry. And you get contrast between Carroll Shelby and Ken Miles. Carroll is wonderfully portrayed, very calm. It soothes him down being in a race car. But Ken Miles, it almost jacks him up. So it's played very well of a contrast. And conflict, heavy.
Yeah.
Politically, racing, nature, everything, conflict is very much dominated in the script.
Oh, yeah. Well, and even the conflict, again, between Carol and Ken. Like, they're two people who, love's not a word I would say to describe how they feel about each other, but like very respectful, very like a friendship built on this kind of almost antagonism, like, two almost brothers, like there's a scene that they're fighting out on the lawn and like they're wrestling and like, kind of like getting jabs in where you can
pull up, by it that this is almost like they were brothers if nobody told you who they really were.
But when Carol needs to stand up for Ken, it shows. When Ken needs to, defend his buddy, it shows. And in fact, that contrast that comes with that conflict is really cool for me, especially, I think it's the literal first shot of the film we get of Carol driving Le Mans.
Yeah.
And we don't get a whole lot of Carol behind the wheel. It's not what his character is doing at this stage in his life. But without having that opening sequence where we get to see how he deals with it, it helps, because then when we get Ken, we get that real contrast between these two characters. And it's so much fun for me. Like, I have friends in my life who are polar opposites of me. That doesn't make them less friends, but just like you kind of look at every one of their life choices and you're like, why are you making that life choice? But then you stand up for them in a heartbeat, if you needed to. And I think that's what these two guys have.
It appeases a lot of aspects of the film. It plays a lot of politics. It plays a lot to the action. Pieced out very well. Definitely a payoff for the racing.
The racing is phenomenal.
Yeah.
And I kind of joke a lot that for a guy that knows virtually nothing about cars or racing, I love racing movies. Whether
makes
they're
you want to
realistic or whether they're far off, towards like the Fast and the Furious insanity. People behind cars just fascinate the heck out of me.
I think people, especially my age or younger, don't appreciate how fascinating the culture of cars was in the 60s and 50s. Especially those people who were the younger age back then, that there was heavy influence and heavy obsession with car racing and sports car racing, especially at that time. And so, we think of it as a long day ago, but definitely of that time, this was a big deal.
Yeah.
Racing.
It's almost like your vehicle was more of a representative of you than your home. Like what you drive is how people see you. Whereas like I'm, again, like polar opposite. I drive I'm going to drop my kids off at the soccer game. Wait, I don't have kids car. Like, like I drive those just like the big kind of like clunky vehicles. But I just love the idea of these guys just stepping behind the wheel of something and literally racing off. What's great to me as well is that it's a film that, it's got very much two leads, but we also have an incredible supporting performance from John Bernthal as Lee Iacocca. And I worship at the altar of John Bernthal because the man never gets his
accolades, right?
He's one of the best characters on Walking Dead. He was Wolf of Wall Street. He steals every scene he's in. He does a great Punisher. Like, people don't talk about his Punisher as much because it's kind of, it's in Netflixy and people don't really talk about it, but
I agree.
he knocks it out of the park. He's one of those guys that I don't think he could do every film. Like he probably did not try to be Mr. Rogers in the new film Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood, but he also knows what he's good at. And I think you have to understand that as an actor, like where you come from. There are things that Steve Carell is really good at. Yeah. And he does sometimes play those characters that he'd be really good at playing because that's what he does. He knows his character. I agree. And he's phenomenal in the film because he's tugged between these two forces. He's not tugged between Ford and Ferrari. It's between Ford and these two guys. Like, he's trying to really like play the politics, really try to be a friend to everyone. Yeah. And then you get like a Josh Lucas who's who knows what he wants to accomplish, and he's willing to throw other people away to get what he wants.
Especially that character.
You know, and you get the contrast between those two.
It's very well casted.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's very well casted. John's not going to get the accolades that he should for this role. And, you know, and people, I'm sure you could tell he did extensive research about Lee Iacocca.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's just not going to get the accolades that Matt Damon and Christian Bale are going to get for this film because their performances are good.
Yeah. I like that the film does give him time to shine in a lot of ways where, like, he's very much the protagonist of the film. He gets the story started. You know, he's the one who comes up with this idea that leads them down the path to Le Mans. Like, and I think it's nice because while he doesn't get that time, Wind River again, fantastic, simple performance.
Oh yeah, he was in Wind River. Again, you forget about
the many films of John Bernthal. But he's one of those guys. Like, this is one film where I feel like he does get more than he usually does, and hopefully this is a step in the right direction to seeing more from him because I think he has the chops of a leading man.
That's the next barometer is he can carry a movie.
Yeah,
put his name in the title and see if you can carry the movie and make money off of it, and then you will be balancing between Damon and Christian Bale. Definitely. I wouldn't say this is definitely a masculine kind of a movie. I know, you know, guys, it's definitely dominated, but I think there's some components of a good story that doesn't matter what gender you are.
Yeah, and it doesn't feel like it feels more, and this, I don't want this to sound like a bad thing for it. It feels more layman, where like it's accessible. Yes. You know, like for me, I'd be very interested in deep diving into all like the minutia of how do we build this car the right way? What do we do? Like, when does it fail? When do we keep going? Yeah. But it also doesn't feel to me like a film that's flying over my head. You know,
exactly.
This is on level with what I'm seeing, and they use some pretty nice sequences to really outline like the ball of the roll of string that they put on the car to kind of like measure it and see like where it's having troubles.
Right. It presented technical terms to mind, not drawn out to that you're not reading a textbook.
Yes.
But it presented it very well and entertaining, which is hard to do. You want to explain the dynamics and physics of racing and how to make it faster without boring everybody.
Yeah. And you know, it's the way that you use your tools. And I don't mean that in a sense that these guys are tooling around in the vehicles. I mean like the way that Mangold uses even just racing in between the Le Mans races that we see and in between the actual racing sequence. There's a great sequence when Shelby takes Tracy Letts, who plays Henry Ford II,
test drive,
into the vehicle to test drive it out. And it's a scene that's made for character development, made for plot progression, but it's also just a damn fun sequence to have because Henry Ford's never been behind the wheel of a race car before in this particular sense.
It's one of those things I don't think it really happened in real life, but important for the movie to demonstrate, hey, this is still his product and let's take it out. But it needed to be in the film. And I don't think it actually probably never really happened. Yeah. But it's one of those that you have to give liberty, you know, talk. The other aspect of it is one car that goes too fast, right? Remember that scene was going too fast and why it feels like a jet. And of course, you do the visual comparison of having an airplane right next to him. Yeah. And that's a kind of nice visual narrative to put in there, a nice little device to demonstrate how you want to get the true events, but you want to visually show them. Well,
and for me personally, like, I think if you are going to make a film adaptation of something like this, like you have documentaries, I believe the 24-Hour War, the one that we talked about. Yes. Yeah. You have documentaries if you want to see the beat by beat progression. I think as long as you're not truly betraying who a person is, like if Ken Miles has some scenes in the film where he goes home and then like, you know, and then beats his wife. If he's never been known to do that, that would be wrong. Right. But if you're you know, kind of creating some scenes for the film, that's what a film is. Film is a story, and if it needs to break a few rules to get that done, I'm fine with it because you also have to go into a film knowing that this is not a documentary, this is not a book on the actual race. This is a movie, and it's meant first and foremost to entertain. And I think in that way, those sequences that we feel like maybe don't exist are very entertaining.
It's a very, again, like I said at the beginning of this episode, I thoroughly enjoyed it more than I thought it was going to do.
Definitely. Yeah. For me, I was so excited with my racing, non-racing background to see the film. But I also came out of it with some things I didn't expect to have problems with. Okay. First and foremost, we mentioned at the beginning, he knows how to pace everything out really well. I think at the time, though, he paces out specific sequences very well. I do think the film was too long. I think it's about 15 to 20 minutes. Like, not a lot. Heck, even 5 minutes cut off of it, I think could aid the film overall. Because there is a lot of, it's weird to think, there's a lot of repetition in the film in terms of, I mean, it is a story of guys driving in circles for 24 hours. Like, it's meant to kind of be repetitious, and he handles sequences very well to make them not feel repetitious. But the film itself has so much packed in there. I feel like there's some areas we could chop and we could squeeze things a little bit tighter.
No, we talked about it before. There's a part of the movie where I really feel that where it should have ended, and then it continue on. Right. I think they really try to wrap it up too nicely in a bow, and it loses its luster after a while. It's far more entertaining until the last, it gets down to the last couple minutes where you're just like, when you can. Come on. Right.
Well, what I would liken it to is like, it's almost Christmas time. If we're wrapping gifts, you put your bow on it, but then this film almost wraps it in another layer of wrapping paper that you don't need. You had a perfect gift at a specific point. And it's only about 5 minutes. It's only like a few minutes that like, the film just drags on a bit longer. And it's stuff that I feel like you could have. This is one instance where I think that information is important, but it's more of a tell information than a show. I'll rarely ever say tell, don't show. This is something where like one simple line on the screen to kind of tell you what that moment means. And when you see the film, you'll know what we discussed on it.
Yeah.
But for me, that's a tell, don't show moment because you have your film ending already. There's a moment on the racetrack at the end of the film where you could have ended it. And I could have closed my eyes at that point and been done. It's great.
If you're an avid consumer of film, you know exactly what we're talking about, where it should have ended.
Yeah, exactly.
We're not going to leave.
We won't. Other things like that, I think. Josh Lucas kind of gets a little mustache twirly at times.
Yeah, I'm evil.
Right? And I think the way that his character is portrayed in the film, not even portrayed so much, but just the narrative given to his character is one that it seems to me almost like he's like, oh, Ken Miles made fun of me and he like shaded me and now I have to make his life hell. Yeah. And I think that's how it came off to me the first time I watched it. When I went back and resaw the film, it didn't feel that way in the same way. Maybe it's I once watching it again, and as you said before, like watching it again did kind of soften some of those rougher edges for me. But not many people are going to go and see a film twice so that they can soften the edges. So really, like first viewing through, Josh Lucas does seem a little mustache twirly. Like I kept wondering if he was going to tie Katrina Balfe to a railroad tie and wait for the train to show up.
Well, like I try to explain, I think it's a necessity because you have such plausible characters that you need somebody to be the antagonist, and I think you need somebody who's going to be over the top antagonist because you're really rooting for everybody in the movie. In fact, there's nothing really you're against Ferrari. I mean, they're not really bad guys.
Yeah, even against them, like they're not bad guys. They're not even like Enzo Ferrari is not even really in the film a lot. No. He sets the scene. He's there like as a dark presence. He's Sauron way in the distance, and
no, that's what I thought. What they're gonna do with the movie? They're gonna make him ultra evil,
And so I feel like they had to create antagonism, and I love the problem that they're dealing with is that they're facing Ferrari. They're also facing Ford. Like there's no unscathed company here. Like I was worried when I was seeing some trailers from like, oh, they're gonna make Ford out as this like saintly company that like. We're going to be for the common man. I'm going to go do it. And at times they feel like they're going that place, but those times felt realistic. At other times when it felt like they were antagonistic towards Carol and Ken, it felt like they were antagonistic. Like that was a real antagonism to them. So that's where like Josh Lucas succeeds. There's just a few times where it's kind of like, I was kind of hoping Mangold maybe had a leash on him and just pulled him back a little bit.
There's one movie that I really kind of almost similar in context of Ford vs. Ferrari which is like Ghostbusters. Okay. Where Ghostbusters has a goal of just to want to eradicate the ghosts and catch them, but really what they're dealing with, which the bad guys are, bureaucracy.
Oh yeah.
The people in the way of Peck. Peck is the ultimate bad guy in the movie, right? Yeah. And Ford vs. Ferrari, very similar. They have one goal. Everybody wants to win a race, and what's interrupting that process is the bureaucracy, right? The bad guys are getting their interjecting and blocking their goals, and it's almost like that. I mean, obviously the goal is to win the race, but they're running into variety of different conflicts to get that accomplished.
See, and I was thinking from kind of like a similar vein, it reminded me a lot of the franchise for Rocky, not just specifically Rocky 1, but just like these two guys are fully laid out characters that you are following, that you love for their flaws in a lot of the same ways, and then they come across as like, they're the common man being beaten down. Yeah. Like it's because of like all the forces going against them, not just from one angle, not just from Apollo Creed, but from the exhibitors, his family, who like some people who don't believe in him. They say go and follow your dreams, Rocky, but you're not going to do well. Like and like you don't believe in someone, that doesn't mean anything to say go follow your dreams. Like I want to know that you believe in someone's ability to do something, and that's kind of where I came through as that as well. As these two guys are pushing against an immovable object at times. Right. So coming off of this film, I definitely think it has the potential to be a Best Picture nomination.
Definitely cinematography.
I feel like sound editing and sound mixing.
Yeah. It's a technically wonderful film.
Yes, and I think even look at like a screenplay. Like I think the screenplay is laid out well. It doesn't cross the finish line perfectly. But it is...
no, there are some times where the screenplay does shine. You have Matt Damon, vouching back for his job, and there's a great speech for him in there. Yeah. Ken Miles has a great speech in there. It's bookended kind of nicely. Mm-hmm. So there are some times where the screenplay does get the shine. I don't necessarily think it's going to get nominated. I don't think it dominates that.
The only thing that makes me think that it could be is if they try to formulate it. I don't know exactly how they're submitting the screenplay. Yeah. Are they submitting it as... unadapted from like a book? I don't know. Or are they doing it as an original screenplay? If they go adapted route, adapted's a tougher fight because there's less films that like really achieve that adaptation. Yeah. We talked recently about like the adaptation of Dr. Sleep being like it works better as a film than as an adaptation at times. And this is one where like the adaptation of the true life story I think would work pretty well. So it depends on kind of how they play that. One other area that they're playing it really strangely is they're nominating, or they're pushing to nominate Matt Damon and Christian Bale both as co-leads of the film instead of one being a lead and one being a supporting actor. And that reminds me of very similar, like on an opposite way, is Once Upon a Time in Hollywood's pushing for Leo DiCaprio as a lead and Brad Pitt as a supporting. It's a political move, but I also think this could doom both performers.
Right, I think they probably understand. If you want to play the Academy Oscar politics, is right. They're rolling the dice and see if they can both one or the other. They don't think it's going to be right. I don't think they think both of them are going to get in there, one or the other.
Yeah, and what worries me though is like as an Academy voter again, like they'll see some people will see things in terms of like, well, I'm going to nominate one of them, and so they'll pick one. Yeah. But if they get split down the middle, then no one gets in. And so I think that kind of happened too, like with Best Supporting Actress last year for The Favorite, was, we have two actresses nominated Best Supporting for The Favorite. If people are going to vote for one, some will vote for one, some will vote for the other. And then I think that can actually doom you in a lot of ways. So I think it would have been a smarter move. And do you see a difference? Is there a lead of the film versus a supporting?
Not necessarily. I think people, especially voters, like, hey, Christian Bale has already got his, and if he gets nominated, I don't think they'll vote again. I think if Matt Damon, obviously of his, but not for acting.
I think if you push for Damon though for lead, I think you've got a better chance of selling the lead performance of that film, because I do think Damon has more of a lead performance. It starts with him, it ends with him. It is all like about him as a character through his struggles, almost more so than Ken Miles. Ken Miles gets the meat, as we said, but like that's okay. Like, and I think pushing him for supporting would have helped in that race as well. They might have ended up dooming both of them by this move. So yeah. So I guess just coming off of the film, final thoughts. Anything?
Definitely going to get some nominations out of it. Worthy to see, even if you don't like cars. I think it's a movie that, if you like movies, you're going to get. It satisfies a lot of aspects of movies that you like. You're going to get your action, you're going to get your dialogue, and you get all that stuff in there. So definitely, it's not just an isolated genre film. It's a movie for everybody. Yeah,
and I think we saw, especially with this opening weekend, like it was pretty pleasing, and it actually it withstood. It opened on the same weekend that a Disney Plus, started that Friday, and there was a lot of worry box office wise whether or not a film in the theater could withstand a new streaming service opening on the same day, because that's a big burden to do. And Ford v Ferrari did pretty well at the box office and is consistently staying in that conversation. I do think people are going out to see this film, and I think they should. I think it's, for my qualms of the film, it's something that I don't think it suffers. I think it is still an enjoyable experience, a very thrilling experience. And like I said, one of the biggest things I can say about James Mangold in this film. He makes the repetition of driving in circles cinematic and exciting.
It does.
You know,
it makes you want to be a gear, right?
Car, like, I'm not a NASCAR guy.
We're not car guys, but it makes you want to be a car guy.
Yeah,
right,
and it makes you he focuses on different portions of the race while it's being raced, so you're never seeing the same part. You know, he's breaking it down really.
Even
well.
though we're doing the same thing, and it looks different, and that's great editing on that part.
Yeah, so I think it was a good collaboration on all fronts. Technically made, really well made film. There's some issues, of course, with the overall completed product, but I think it's still fascinating enough and interesting enough that this is going to remain in the conversation through the rest of the holidays.
Yep.
And we might see it across that finish line.
And if it keeps out, keeps the news, and keeps on, it definitely would get some nominations.
Perfect, awesome. Yep. So the most important thing, though, is, guys, what do you think about the film?
Yes.
We're just two guys. So make sure that you comment below with your thoughts on the film. Tweet at us at KNOnFilm your thoughts on Ford v Ferrari. Don't forget to subscribe if you guys really enjoy it. And don't forget to check out our Patreon, too. KNOnFilm, Kyle and Nick on Film on Patreon. You can go there, check it out. We got some cool tiers over there. We like to get the conversation going with you guys as well. So please feel free to check that out. And go see Ford v Ferrari. It's one of those films I think is worthy of the theater experience. It's definitely one that it was thrilling as heck, and I would very much recommend it to all of you. Nick, where can we find you?
You can find me on the St. Paul Filmcast on Podbean, Stitcher, Google Play. You can find all the major distributors of podcasts.
Perfect. And you guys can find all my reviews on goatfilmreviews.com. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Almighty Goatman. And don't forget to follow us, KN on Film on Twitter as well. And thanks everybody. It was good talking with you.
Yeah.
We'll see you guys across the finish line at the next one.
I got it.